Hello and welcome to the Tiny Artist TV Color Palette Challenge, Character Creation Challenge live streams. Today we are working on character 64, so just off the bat here, obviously this is a little more fleshed out than what I usually do for my character creation challenges, but if you are, if you've been watching my stuff for a while, you may recognize this style of character. If you are unfamiliar with what this character is, this is a Festian. I've actually done 2 other Festians for the Color Palette Challenge, but for this particular Festian, these colors, they are so close together. I almost pulled my hair out trying to figure out something to do, and then I was, inspired by, okay, these are some very aquatic type colors. The color palette is named Mermaid because this was a color palette that took over the 2010s with a firm grasping chokehold, and so this was kind of everywhere. That's why it's called Mermaid. But that kind of got me in the mindset of, okay, what if I did something aquatic, because that's what the color palette name is inspired by. I'm not a fan of drawing mermaids unless they're based on weird fish, but I do love me some Festians. I couldn't think of anything else to do that wouldn't drive me up the wall trying to place these particular colors, because do you see these two here? I don't know if you can tell the difference. I can see the difference. This one is slightly more green and this one is slightly more blue, but they are so close together, so I will be separating these, maybe doing a little bit of gradient work. But this is an aquatic Festian, or one who is closer to water. The ones in the past I've done were a scholar, an assassin, and then one that may have been more around more jungle terrain, more natural terrain, and so his appendages were based on spiders. Her appendages are actually based on a praying mantis or an orchid mantis, and so these colors kind of harken to that, but overall she does have more aquatic features, like the facial gills, but the core elements for the Festian species that I've created are, let's zoom in here a little bit. Well, actually, this is a pretty good one here. The thermal spots along the bridge of the nose and under the eyes and over the eyes, the sensing feathers, and then the telekinetic antenna, and all of them have functions. I won't get into that here just because I've covered it in other videos. I may dabble in talking about the features a little bit more as I get into coloring, but for now I want to get started on the lines because there is quite a bit to do. I think I'm going to leave this section alone for now. Well, okay. My main goal was to finish this one because I wanted to do this in a more painterly style, because I wanted to, I like the sketchiness of all of this, but my idea was I was going to use that pen that I used in yesterday's stream, that good pencil pen, and just do these as more refined sketches, but mainly focus on doing this with full lines and colors, and everything else would just be kind of more sketchy. But I believe I have talked quite enough, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So up here, her brain cavity is transparent, or the very a little translucent. The idea for that kind of came from, I think it's called a glass tree frog. It's the frog that its belly is clear so you can see all of its organs, and a polytoad, wrath, and whirl are based on this particular frog. But I thought it would be kind of cool, an interesting way to incorporate this pink to have her organs be this color with like maybe this sort of blue sheen on top of them. But they do have, they being the Festians, do have a chitinous exoskeleton. So it's like a crunchy glass dome on top of her organs, but I wanted her brain and her like stomach and heart to be exposed. So I might end up changing a little bit of this dress, but if I can get, I think there's enough here that I can still do the pink on the inside and have like a little bit of that glass dome effect happening. Doing the facial features for Festians is always, try saying that 5 times fast, I can barely say it once, has always been kind of interesting because they are very much so based on bugs. And so they don't really have like noses or lips because those things are made out of flesh, but I still want to, like, I always indicate a mouth cavity, and some sort of like nasal cavity. Yeah, it's more of a stylistic thing that she has like a lower lip, but they do have teeth. I'll try to keep on track, I swear, but over here you can see that they have like it's not individual teeth, it's like one hard plate they use to crush the things that they eat. And then the thermal spots. In my lore, Festus is, well, it gets about 12 hours of sun, 12 hours of night, depending on, where on the planet you are. And so the thermal spots during the day will store up heat, and then during the night or anytime it gets cold, the thermal spots will release the stored heat in order to keep blood flowing to their vital organs and will glow. So the glowing is more of just a cool, cute feature, but I've done some of the character art that I've done of some of the other Festians does show the spots glowing. They also glow when they are like excited or agitated, because it's a release of heat, like when you flush or like when you blush. So anytime they experience strong emotions, the thermal spots will glow, and they will also glow when they are tapping into their like extra senses. So all of this is to kind of help them sense the environment around them. And so that's another instance where the thermal spots around their eyes and face would glow. As I'm editing this, and if you've actually watched all the way through to this point in the video, I'm sure you've noticed this is a very lore-heavy character creation video, and believe it or not, I'm not leaving everything in, so if you want to see what bits of lore got cut out, go watch the live stream. It's pretty much just 2 hours of me deep diving into this race of aliens that I've created. And then thermal spots. So not all Festians they all have the facial thermal spots. I've decided to give her thermal spots on her hands as well, because when you're swimming, you certainly don't want your extremities to go numb, and so she has thermal spots on her hands. The bottom of her hands are very gecko-like, as you can see here, so they have a lot of underwater grip. And then she's got the main thermal spot on the back of the hand here, and then along the knuckles, and they kind of go down the length of the fingers. This is the kind of stuff that I enjoy doing, is thinking through the whys of a character. Because it's one thing to just like make a character and make them look cool, but it's like, okay, but why did you make that choice? Is there like, and there doesn't always have to be a reason, but I always feel like it's more impactful when there is a reason behind a particular design choice, and that usually ends up making your character stronger. I think with this particular species of Festian, they would wear clothing that accentuates the points on their bodies and the clear parts of their physiology, because I think they would find that fascinating and beautiful, because they all have very distinct like things that each species of Festian would like want to accentuate. Yeah, if anything, the nose is almost more like a beak than like a true fleshy nose, just because it's a hard like extension with some like nasal slits. And I want to get started on coloring Ylnara here. Let me set this to reference. Alright, so yeah, with the skin being this color, I'm probably gonna have to use, these are so close together. How do they look next to each other in large patches? Okay, it's more noticeable when they're like, but it is so like, what I might end up using that one for is just to do a gradient on the skin, because there is no practical way for me to make the design look good using these two colors next to each other for what's basically like the same color, but I can make the feathers that color, so I will do that. Well, they're not feathers, they're antenna. They're like the equivalent of what a moth has. So we'll call them Festus Prime. On the Festus Prime Festians, they're like full moth feather antenna, and so that changes based on region, which changes the function, and some of them are more fine and leafy like this, and then of course some of them are more full, but they all have those as sort of an extra sensory appendage. How much time? I'm at 59:30. Then I can fine tune that with my eraser. On top of that to do like mermaid scales type texture. Very pretty. Okay. Shading. Now ultimately what I need to do to really make this like fully painted, but what I'm scared to do because of how pale these colors are, is to set the line layer to overlay. But again, because all of these colors are basically, they fall into the white category of grayscaling, the lines are just gonna absolutely disappear, and then I won't have any guides to work with. Let's see, so yeah, scared of what's gonna happen when I do that, but let's see what that looks like. Okay, yeah, I can work with this. I can make this look more painterly. Yeah, the lines are so pale. I'm just gonna need to up the contrast in my coloring to make it, you know, do what it needs to do. And now I can also see where some of my color slippage is happening and can clean that up. Yep, that's better. So the oil paint is good for blending, but sometimes you just need a good crispy line. I shouldn't have said crispy. I'm starting to get hungry. I have had 3 nights in a row where I have dreamed about cheeseburgers. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because I've like started cutting like red meat out of my diet more. So now my body's like, hey, you know that thing that you told yourself that you're not gonna like indulge in? You should have that. Like the worst version of it. Like, no. But it's not just any cheeseburger. It's specifically like a backyard cookout. Like the patty is like burnt, but it's still like a little juicy in the middle, but it's also like dry somehow, with like the cheese melted onto it with onions and like the perfect amount of mustard and like 4 pickles, specifically 4 pickles. Yeah, it's been haunting my dreams for the past 3 days. I'm going crazy. Still do a little bit of scaling here, but the like innards don't have anything going for them right now. It's just solid pink. So let's fix that. Yeah, now it's a little more readable as like not exposed. I'm gonna need to do a white highlight on top of the line art just to really push that effect. I've got 30 seconds. Yeah. So this is where we are at the end of 2 hours. Like I said, it would only make sense for me to go longer if I was like really close to finishing. Which like I have enough of an idea that you can see what I'm going for. The 4th? Yeah, this is the 4th Festian, and this is character number 64, incidentally. But that is going to be it for today's stream. Let me just get everything situated here. I'm gonna do a boop, and we're gonna close this. close this. And